Hey there, and welcome to this special deep dive.
Yeah.
If you're here, you're probably looking for some gentle, natural ways to, dial down the stress and maybe find a little more ease in your day.
I love that.
So grab your favorite blanket, maybe a warm cup of tea, and get comfy.
Yeah.
We're about to create our own little cozy care corner, exploring some seriously effective techniques to calm those anxieties.
I love that image. And it's so true, isn't it? So many of us are looking for those natural, nurturing ways to find a little more peace.
Totally. And we've got a treasure trove of listener-sourced wisdom and expert insights to dive into. We're
Yes.
talking aromatherapy, mindful movement, the power of herbal teas, and so much more.
It's amazing what we can learn from each other.
Right. And before we even get into those specific practices, I think it's helpful to understand what's actually going on in our bodies when that anxiety creeps in.
Okay, let's unpack that. I know you always say anxiety isn't just a mental thing.
Right. It's a full body experience. Think of it as like a built-in alarm system.
And that alarm can be triggered by anything that feels threatening, even if it's not actually dangerous.
It's not just about big scary events.
Yeah.
Even small things can set it off.
Absolutely. It's all about perception. Imagine you're walking through the woods and you see a snake.
Okay.
Your heart starts racing, your palms get sweaty.
Yeah.
That's your alarm system kicking in, preparing you to fight or flee. But then you realize it's just a harmless stick. The threat was never real, but your body still reacted.
Okay, so it's like a false alarm, but my body is treating it like a real emergency.
Exactly. And the same thing happens with anxiety.
Okay.
Your brain perceives a threat, maybe a deadline at work, a social situation, or even just your own thoughts, and that alarm system goes off.
So my mind is basically playing tricks on me turning everyday stuff into scary monsters.
In a way, yes. And here's the really interesting part. It's not even your thoughts that trigger the alarm. It's actually the other way around.
Wait, what? I thought my anxious thoughts caused my physical reaction.
Nope. It's the physical reaction that comes first. Your body senses a threat, real or imagined, and that alarm goes off. Then your mind tries to make sense of it with worries and what ifs.
But it's not that I'm thinking this presentation is going to be a disaster and then my heart starts pounding. It's more like my body senses some kind of pressure and my mind jumps in with, oh no, I'm going to mess this up.
Precisely. And we all experience that alarm differently. Some people get jittery, others freeze up, some get that fight or flight energy. We even heard from a listener who experiences anxiety as anger.
Oh, wow. That must be so confusing.
It is, and it's why it's so important to get curious about your own anxiety. How does it show up for you? Where do you feel it in your body?
So the first step is getting to know my anxiety, becoming aware of how it feels in my body. What then?
Well, once that alarm goes off, it's easy to get caught in a spiral of worry. Dr. Russ Kennedy calls this stacking.
Stacking, like a tower of anxiety.
Exactly. One worry leads to another, and before you know it, you're completely overwhelmed. But here's a powerful insight from Dr. Kennedy. He says all anxiety stems from a sense of separation.
Separation. Tell me more.
This feeling often originates in childhood. Think back to times when you felt disconnected from your parents, or maybe you didn't feel seen or heard for who you truly were. Even small things like your parents pushing you towards a career path you weren't passionate about can contribute to this feeling.
So it's like those early experiences created this underlying sense of not belonging.
Right, and that feeling gets embedded in our nervous system. So as we get older, we become hypersensitive to situations that trigger those same feelings, situations where we feel unseen, unheard, or unsafe.
That makes so much sense. It's like my past is influencing how I'm reacting to stress in the present. What can I do about it? I can't exactly go back and change my childhood.
Right. You can't change the past, but you can change how you relate to it.
Yeah.
And here's the key. If anxiety is rooted in separation, the antidote is connection.
Connection. You mean like connecting with other people?
That's part of it for sure. But the most important connection is the one you have with yourself.
Oh, interesting. So it's about self-love and self-acceptance?
Exactly. It's about turning toward the alarm, soothing it like we would a scared child. Most of us try to cope by running away from anxiety into our heads, distractions, addictions even, but that only reinforces the separation.
Like pushing that feeling down instead of acknowledging it. I could definitely relate to that. So how do we start connecting with ourselves, turning towards that alarm? Where do we even begin?
Well, the first step is becoming aware of the alarm. Next time you feel that anxiety creeping in, instead of getting swept away by it, I want you to pause and get curious.
Curious about my anxiety.
Yes, ask yourself, where is the sensation in my body? What does it feel like? Is it a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, or maybe it feels like a lump in your throat?
That's a really interesting approach. So it's not about trying to make it go away. It's about getting to know it better.
Exactly. And once you've located the alarm, the next step is to breathe into it.
Breathe into the discomfort. Now, that sounds counterintuitive.
I know, right? But trust me on this. Deep, intentional breathing is key. It's like sending a signal to your body that you're safe.
I've heard about a technique where you take 3 quick inhales and then a long hissing exhale, like deflating a tire. Would that work?
That's a great one. It's called the physiological sigh, and it's surprisingly effective. It really emphasizes that long exhale, which helps regulate your nervous system.
So I'm finding the alarm breathing into it. What else can I do to soothe myself in that moment?
Words can be powerful too. While you're breathing into that sensation, try saying calming phrases to yourself, like, I'm safe in this moment, or I can handle this.
It's like giving your inner child the reassurance they crave. I love that.
And if you want to add an extra layer of comfort, try what Dr. Kennedy calls the love sandwich.
The love sandwich. Now, that's a term I can get behind. Tell me more.
It's incredibly simple, but so effective. Place one hand on your heart, the other on your back, and hold yourself gently. It's like giving yourself a physical embodiment of self-love and support.
I love that imagery. A little hug from the inside out. So we've got breathing, self-soothing statements and the love sandwich. Those are some great starting points.
Yeah.
And speaking of starting points, we have some more natural remedies to explore.
Oh, yes. Our listeners shared some fantastic tips on using aromatherapy, herbal teas, and mindful movement to soothe anxiety.
Let's dive into those right after a quick message from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about those extra cozy care tips for calming anxiety.
You know, I'm all about those cozy vibes. So let's talk aromatherapy. Some of our listeners swear by essential oils for stress relief. What's the science behind those anxiety-busting scents?
Well, it's fascinating, really. Certain scents like lavender and chamomile have calming properties that can signal relaxation to the brain.
I've definitely heard lavender is great for sleep. But how does just smelling something actually create a sense of calm?
When you inhale those essential oils, they stimulate your olfactory system, which is directly connected to the emotional center of your brain.
So it's like those scents are sending a message directly to my brain saying, hey, chill out. Everything's cool.
Exactly. But it's super important to remember that quality matters. You want to make sure you're using high-quality oils from reputable brands. And always do a patch test before applying any new oil to your skin.
Good advice. Quality over quantity for sure. Now, speaking of natural remedies, what about herbal teas? There are so many out there claiming to soothe anxiety. Are any of them actually worth brewing?
Absolutely. Herbal teas have been used for centuries to promote relaxation and well-being. Some popular choices for anxiety relief include chamomile, lemon balm, and passion flower.
Chamomile tea before bed is one of my favorite rituals. It's like a warm hug in a mug. But what about those other ones? Any idea if they're safe and effective?
Well, lemon balm has been deemed safe when consumed in amounts typically found in food. And research suggests that passion flower may have calming effects on the nervous system.
Interesting. So we've got calming scents, soothing teas. What about movement? Can that help with anxiety too?
Absolutely. Mindful movement practices like yoga, tai chi, or even just intuitive dance can be incredibly helpful for releasing tension.
I've definitely noticed that when I'm feeling stressed, getting out for a walk or doing some yoga can make a big difference. It's like shaking off the anxiety.
It's more than just shaking it off, though. Mindful movement helps you tune into your breath and your body, which, as we discussed earlier, are key for calming the nervous system.
It all comes back to that mind-body connection. Okay, so we've covered some awesome ground here. Breathing techniques, calming self-talk, the love sandwich, aromatherapy, herbal teas, mindful movement. Anything else we should add to our Cozy Care toolkit?
Let's not forget the importance of sleep-limiting alcohol and caffeine and nourishing ourselves with a balanced diet. These lifestyle factors play a huge role in managing anxiety, too.
So true. It's all connected, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about finding a quick fix. It's about creating a lifestyle that truly supports our well-being.
Exactly. And remember, consistency is key. These techniques work best when we weave them into our daily lives, not just when we're feeling overwhelmed.
Like building a muscle. The more we practice self-care, the stronger our resilience becomes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But we've only just scratched the surface of Dr. Kennedy's work.
Oh, there's more. Well, I'm all ears, and I'm sure our listeners are too. Let's dive deeper. So before the break, you hinted that there's even more to Dr. Kennedy's work. I'm ready to go deeper.
Well, one of his most fascinating insights is the connection between anxiety and addiction.
Anxiety and addiction. Now, that's not something I would have necessarily put together.
It makes sense when you think about it. When that anxiety alarm is constantly going off, you're naturally going to look for ways to quiet it down.
I can see that.
And for some people, that soothing comes in the form of an addiction. It could be alcohol, drugs, work shopping, even something like constantly chasing achievements.
So the addiction becomes a way to numb the anxiety, a coping mechanism, but not a very healthy one.
Exactly. And what's even more profound is that Dr. Kennedy believes this all comes back to self-love. He says people with anxiety often block love, especially love for themselves.
Wow, that really hits home. It's not just that they're trying to numb the anxiety, it's that they're also trying to avoid a deep need for love and connection.
Precisely. And this is where his work gets really interesting. He helps people identify where they're blocking love in their bodies and then guides them to release those blocks.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to break that down for me.
Yeah.
How do you even find a love block in your body?
It involves a lot of mindful exploration and connecting with your inner child. Dr. Kennedy believes that when we experience trauma, a part of us gets stuck at that age, holding on to those painful feelings.
So it's like a younger version of ourselves is trapped in the past, still feeling those same fears and anxieties.
Yes, and those feelings can manifest as physical sensations in our bodies, often that same anxiety alarm we've been talking about. By going back and connecting with that younger self, offering them love and reassurance, we can start to heal those old wounds and quiet the alarm.
This is powerful stuff. It's not just about managing anxiety in the moment. It's about addressing those deep-rooted issues that are often tied to a lack of self-love.
It's a profound shift in perspective, and one that can have a ripple effect throughout our lives.
So what can our listeners do today to start incorporating these ideas into their lives?
Dr. Kennedy recommends two simple but powerful practices: awareness and the physiological sigh. The first is to simply become aware of that alarm when it goes off. Don't try to push it away or resist it. Just get curious. Where do you feel it in your body? Place your hand on that spot and acknowledge its presence.
Amen.
Breathe. That physiological sigh we talked about earlier is perfect for this. Take 3 quick inhales, hold, and then a long hissing exhale like you're deflating a tire. It's an incredibly effective way to quickly calm the nervous system.
It's amazing how something so simple can have such a powerful effect.
Right. And while you're doing that sigh, you can even repeat a calming phrase to yourself like, I am safe in this moment.
It's like offering comfort and reassurance to that scared part of ourselves. Well, I think this has been a wonderful conversation. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too. It seems like the biggest takeaway for me today is this anxiety doesn't have to be a constant battle. By understanding that alarm system and practicing self-soothing techniques, especially those that cultivate self-love, we can create a more peaceful experience for ourselves.
Beautifully said.
So what small act of self-care will you choose to connect with yourself today? Maybe it's brewing a cup of chamomile tea, taking a few deep breaths, or simply placing your hand on your heart and offering yourself a moment of loving kindness. We encourage you to explore the additional resources mentioned in the show notes and continue your journey toward a calmer, more fulfilling life. Until next time, happy diving.